What's cracking, lads? Welcome back to the PM session of today, where I traded on the 150K account trying to find some power hour trades. As you can tell, it didn't go too hot, but I still wanted to make a video because there's some things that I'd like to go over that I feel like can still be useful to some of you when you're trying to backtest and study and fix your mistakes. So the very first thing is, let's just write in our trades, make sure we got it all down accurately. They're all going to be three shorts each. So as you can tell, my first mistake was not sizing down. The way I felt kind of going into this was I was really bored, and I think that's something to recognize when you're trading is there shouldn't be a moment where you feel bored trading. And I remember when I got into the first trade, like I suddenly woke up, like, like it gave me that dopamine rush that like, oh, I'm finally trading, right? And so the first thing I want you to notice is that I'm trading all of these contracts after 3 o'clock. So that's the first mistake, really. That's just easily identifiable because the action, you know, the action before 3 o'clock was so slow. Like I was literally playing video games while I was waiting because of how boring it was. And that was like my first sign to really say like, oh, I probably don't need to trade anything because if the action is so slow, like what am I hoping to catch? And this is all without looking at the charts, right? So regardless of the price action going on, if you can recognize that you're just bored out of your mind, there's really nothing going on in front of your screen, then it just doesn't make sense to trade. And that was kind of my first mistake. And but regardless, I got into a trade, and one thing that I really was struggling with was the SMTs because I was finding some SMTs, and you're going to see this after I finish writing these down. I just want to show you how I do this math pretty quickly here to calculate my P&L. So this one was minus 22 and 330. I'm pretty sure that checks out. Hold on, I messed that one up. 31.5 minus 26 times 4. So yeah, 22. So, okay, so this was all my trades that I took, all terrible, not at the right time. The total P&L for this trades on the 1K is going to be minus 1,028.52. If you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, like you're so bad, like you don't know what you're doing. I'm glad I did this anyways because I was really experimenting with this account, and I'm already glad that I have it in the first place because there was no reason for me to open a 150K account. And after the day that I blew it up by losing 3K, I thought I lost it permanently. So I'm glad I have it because I can do things like this on a slower, PM session where I'm not risking my 50K account. I may be risking this account, but I have no plans on paying 150 bucks when this has to be renewed, which is literally in under 2 weeks. So I'm not really hoping to hit the 159 mark, or I think that is the mark. When 150,000, you got to hit like $9,000. I don't think I'm gonna really hit that, and even if I could, I'd basically have to forget about the 50K account. So remember, you have to like focus on one account at a time because there's really no use in trading two separate accounts every day thinking that you're trying to hit both of the profit targets. Like that's not my intention when I go into a PM session with the 150K. Like if I have a good or bad day on the 50K account, I'm purely trading the 150K on the PM so that number one, I get some experience in the PM sessions, which I did. And so number two, I can experiment with larger size and seeing how I feel about pushing up and pushing limits because I personally feel like when I'm trading on the 50K account, at this point it's been almost 3 weeks of me doing it on the 50K account, and I know that I can't do more than one mini. Like the account just can't handle it because you're losing 200 and you don't want to lose more than 1,000, but it doesn't mean you should be losing 1,000 on a bad day, right? So I don't need to be losing more than 300 on a bad day, and that's not the same for the 150K account. I can lose 1,000 on the 150K account and really not care because this can handle 3,000 loss in a single day, and that again, that shouldn't be the goal. So, but the only mistake I did make here, anyways, is three contracts isn't bad. What is bad is losing two trades in a row and then not sizing down to at least two or one minis. And the reason I kind of did that too was, again, I was bored and like I'm already trading at a time where I don't need to be trading. The action is so slow. Like you're gonna see this chart and like, just look how crappy this action is, man. Like it's just so lame. And I think the thing that really kept me in front of the computer and wanting to trade were all these SMTs. So one thing I easily could recognize is that I need to do some more work on my SMTs. I need to watch a video and I need to understand better when and when not to do an SMT, because at some point I was the same with the fair value gaps. I was drawing every single fair value gap I saw and assuming that that would be a valid one to make a trade off of. And that kind of is what I did for like the second trade here, is I kind of assumed that I could use this fair value gap because it was getting tested so much and it was still wicking over, but like still closing under. So I was really just at a loss during those trades because it just wasn't making sense to me. Like I have so many SMTs that are giving me a bearish signal, and yet we're closing under a bearish fair value gap, and yet the action is so choppy and crappy that I'm getting stopped out like 3 times in a row. And another thing I experimented that I was glad to do was that I kind of switched over to a smaller risk to reward ratio. So my normal one, like I said in the last video, was $9 risk with usually $27 reward. And usually that works out really, really well for me. I think it's almost perfect. And I remember the other day I was experimenting with higher risk bounds. So instead of $9, I think I was risking maybe 12 or just like 13 maybe. And then my reward was more like, 40 or something like that. And I didn't like that either. So I did the same but backwards. So I was trying to risk $6 to make 18, and I realized it's just too tight. It just doesn't work, because even if the action is slow, that's why I experimented and that's why I'm glad I did, because this is when I should be trading, right? This is what I was charting. And you can tell here this was choppy, and I'm glad that I knew better than to, try to trade this garbage. But at the same time, then it was just like getting so long, and I was like, I want some content. Like, I'm so bored. I got nothing to do. So then I started trying to give a crack at this, and that's where the mistakes start. But the point is, try to find the benefit of you making your mistakes, because if you don't, you're just flat out making mistakes. Like, I can recognize when I'm making mistakes, and I'm glad I've progressed that much. And the issue is sometimes I just can't stop myself from making the mistakes. So that's something I still need to work on. But while I still make these mistakes, I want to like make the absolute best out of it. So I'm experimenting with new risks. I'm trying to figure out how to do the SMTs properly, which I know I don't. So when you don't know, it's just best to admit when you don't know, because then you can go back and have something to study. Now I have something to do, right? Like this PM session, without it, I would have been bored the whole day, and then tomorrow morning, I could be more prone to making mistakes because I was longing to trade, in the afternoon, and I wasn't able to. So I'm glad I just got this out of the way, and now I have something to study, right? I've experimented with a new set of risk that I know doesn't work, so I can stick to my 9 to 27. And at the same time, I can recognize that once past 3 o'clock, none of this action is worth trading. So now I have like concrete proof based on experience, because I know some of us have to learn from experience. I'm literally the definition of have to learn by experience. I don't care if I watch a video and they say don't trade at 3 o'clock. Until I trade at 3 o'clock and I realize what it's like to trade at 3 o'clock, I'm probably not going to learn to not trade at 3 o'clock, because one of these days is going to come around where I'm just so bored I have nothing to do that I'm going to try trading at 3 o'clock. So I think I got 2 or 3 good things out of this. And as much as it sucks that I lost $1,000 on the 150K account, I'm glad I still have the account to do stuff like this, because my real goal is to make profit on the 50K account, pass the combine, use that to fund my next higher size account. So again, this is, I'm experimenting in everything, but and at the same time, when I finally go profitable on this 50K account, the next thing I'm going to do after I cash out is start one of these accounts, because I've been playing around with it over the few weeks that I'm also doing the other one, just so that when I'm ready to level up, I'm really ready. So I don't really have much more to go over in this video, because again, it was a really dry session, and I know I've been putting out really, really long videos. So I just wanted to make a nice short video about, again, just trying to juice the success out of your mistakes, so that when you sit down in the morning, when you know you should be trading, when you know what's going on, when you're feeling like you're locked in, you have even less doubts about situations that you aren't familiar or comfortable with. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys know more about S&Ts than me, please say something in the comments, because that's pretty much all I'm going to be studying for tonight to get ready for tomorrow. So cheers.